The rain had already soaked through my coat by the time I stepped into the hotel lobby. I was shivering, dragging my suitcase behind me, and honestly just relieved that somewhere anywhere was open this late. The sign out front said vacancy in flickering red letters, and the place looked like it hadn't been updated since the 60s. It smelled like damp wood and forgotten memories, but it was shelter. The woman at the front desk barely looked up as I approached. She had short gray hair, sharp cheekbones, and a look in her eyes that made me feel like she already knew everything about me. "Welcome," she said. "You're our only guest tonight." I hesitated. "Really?" I asked. She smiled. "Slow season. You'll like it here, very quiet." She handed me an old-fashioned brasserie labeled Room 304, not a key card, a key. Something about that should have set off alarms in my head, but I was too tired to think. I just wanted a hot shower and 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. The elevator creaked like an old coffin lid as I stepped in. The lights inside flickered once, then again, and then held steady. I pressed 3 and leaned back against the wall, breathing in stale air. When the doors opened, the third-floor hallway was dim and narrow, lined with floral wallpaper that had yellowed at the edges. The only sound was the buzz of an old ceiling light at the far end. I walked past room 301, 302, 303, then stopped. Room 304's door was slightly open, just a few inches, just enough to say someone was either careless or waiting. I stood there a moment, listening. Nothing, no movement. I pushed it open slowly. The room was cold, smelled like lavender and old wood. Nothing looked touched. Bed perfectly made, curtains closed, lights off. I called out, "Hello." Nothing. I stepped inside, checked the closet, the bathroom empty. Maybe the cleaning staff forgot to close it. I set my bag down and went to the window. The glass was fogged from the inside. I wiped it and looked out. Street lights, trees, swaying in the wind. And for a second, I swear I saw a reflection in the glass behind me. A figure, tall, still, but when I spun around, the room was empty. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. The bathroom door was cracked open, but I had just checked it, and I remembered leaving it shut. I took one step toward it, and the light inside turned on by itself. I stood frozen at the threshold of the bathroom. The light buzzed quietly, flickering every few seconds as if unsure whether it wanted to stay on or off. I took a slow breath and whispered, "Is someone in there?" No response. The door creaked as I pushed it open fully. It swung inward with an eerie smoothness, revealing the same space I had checked not 10 minutes ago, empty. No one behind the curtain. No one in the mirror. But now the mirror was fogged, as if someone had just taken a shower. I reached up to touch it and felt heat radiating from the glass. I hadn't run the water. I hadn't touched anything. I backed out of the bathroom and closed the door slowly, making sure, this time, that the handle clicked. Then I did something stupid. I opened the door again. The light was off. The mirror was clear, cold, as if none of it had happened. I didn't sleep. I sat on the bed with the television on low, flipping channels with the volume barely audible, just enough to fill the room with some kind of presence that wasn't whatever else might be there. Around 2:30 a.m., I heard something again, this time from the hallway. Footsteps, not soft ones, heavy, measured, slow. They passed my door. I muted the TV. My room was dark except for the glow from the screen. The footsteps stopped outside. I waited, holding my breath. Nothing. just silence. I gathered my courage and tiptoed to the door, peeking through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but something was off. It took me a moment to realize what the wallpaper across from my door, what I'd seen earlier with yellowed flowers, was smeared now. A dark stain, vertical, dripping. I opened the door a crack. The stain was real, thick, wet. I stepped out into the hall, barefoot, every part of me screaming not to, but I had to see. The stain was red, fresh, leading a trail down the hallway, toward the elevator. I followed it, slowly. At the end of the hallway, the light flickered. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. It was empty. The trail stopped just at the threshold. No more blood inside. I stepped back, heart hammering. And then, as the doors were closing, I saw something reflected in the metal. A face, not mine. Behind me, pale skin, black eyes. I spun around, nearly falling. But the hallway was empty again. And my door, my room, it was now wide open. I rushed back into the room, slamming the door shut and locking it with shaking hands. I wedged the chair back under the knob and stumbled away from the entrance. The air felt heavier, as if the very walls were pressing in on me. I turned on every light, even the bathroom. I needed brightness, visibility, control, but it didn't help. The blood trail I'd followed, it was real. The face I saw behind MIT wasn't mine. And now, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched from somewhere inside the room. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the bathroom door. Again, it was slightly ajar. Again, I had left it open, hadn't I? Or maybe I closed it. My thoughts were spiraling. I grabbed my phone to call the front desk, but there was no signal. Not even Wi-Fi. I tried the landline on the nightstand. Static, just soft, constant hissing. But beneath the hiss, I could swear I heard something. A whisper. Low, muffled, like someone speaking underwater. Don't look behind you. I dropped the phone and jumped to my feet. Spinning in place. Nothing. I was alone. No, I wasn't. I couldn't be. I opened the closet. Empty. Crawled on my knees and looked under the bed. Nothing but dust. I sat against the wall, pulling my knees to my chest, heart pounding in my ears. I must have blacked out at some point, because I woke up on the floor. The room was completely dark. The clock on the nightstand read 3:33 a.m. I reached for the light. Power was out. I crawled toward the bathroom, thinking maybe the light there still worked. I never made it. A knock from inside the bathroom, then another, 3 slow knocks, then silence. I pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. My hand reached for the knob, trembling, cold. As I turned it, a voice spoke from behind me, not loud, not angry, but close. That's not your room. I froze. The voice wasn't familiar. It wasn't human. I turned my head, terrified, expecting to see a figure, a shape, something. But there was only the room behind me. And then the bathroom door began to open, on its own. The bathroom door creaked open inch by inch, as if something behind it was savoring the reveal. I stepped back, paralyzed by a fear so primal, it made my skin crawl. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. The light inside flickered weakly, just enough to cast a silhouette across the tiled floor. Bare feet, not mine, not human, long, thin, almost skeletal. The figure didn't step out. It just stood there, still, waiting. And then it whispered something I'll never forget. You're in her room. My legs gave out. I collapsed to the floor, crawling backward until my spine hit the dresser. I fumbled for something, anything, to defend myself. But the only thing within reach was the brass key. I gripped it tight like it could protect me. The figure took a single step forward. The light blinked out. Darkness swallowed the room. I screamed. Not because of pain, but because I felt something breathing inches from my face. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, it was morning. The lights were back on. The bathroom door was shut. My suitcase was back by the wall, untouched. The bed made. The clock read 8:03 a.m. Had I dreamt all of it? I stood up, body trembling, and checked the mirror. My face was pale, sweat-matted hair clinging to my forehead. I looked like someone who had aged 10 years overnight. I gathered my things and practically ran out of the room. The hallway looked different in daylight, less threatening, almost normal. But as I reached the elevator, something made me stop. A photo frame on the wall, old, faded. It showed a smiling woman in a housekeeping uniform standing in front of room 304. The name tag on her chest said, Marina. I remembered the voice from the night before. You're in her room. The woman at the front desk looked up as I reached the lobby. This time, more alert, more aware. Everything okay? She asked, with a strange tension in her voice. I told her what happened. Her smile faltered. But, that can't be. Room 304's been closed for renovations since last fall. No one should have given you that key. My blood ran cold. I pulled it from my pocket. Brass, heavy, real. This key, I said. She stared at it like it was a dead thing. We haven't used those in years, she whispered. And Marina, she died in that room. On her shift. I stood there, holding the key, heart pounding. And then the front door to the hotel opened by itself. No wind, no footsteps. Just that familiar creak, as if something had just left. I should have left right then, walked out that door, and never looked back. But I didn't. Something in me needed answers. Who gave me the key? Why was the room clean, functional, as if waiting for me? And most of all, who or what had I seen in the bathroom that night? The receptionist, shaken now, refused to take the key from my hand. Put it back, she said. Wherever you found it, don't give it to me. She looked terrified. I asked her again about Marina. Her eyes darted to a small drawer beneath the desk. She pulled it open, slowly, and retrieved an old newspaper article, yellowed, folded carefully. The headline read, Hotel Housekeeper, Found Dead in Guest Room, Door Locked from Inside. The photo below was the same woman from the hallway. Picture, Marina, according to the article. Her body was discovered inside room 304. There were no signs of forced entry. The door had been bolted from the inside, and when they found her, she was facing the bathroom mirror, eyes wide open, mouth twisted into a silent scream. They said the mirror had fogged over, even though the power was off. I didn't know what to say. Everything I had experienced, every strange sound, every whisper, every flicker of light, it all pointed back to her, to that room. I left the key on the counter and turned to leave. As I stepped out into the parking lot, I felt like I could finally breathe again. The air was crisp. The storm had passed. My car was right where I'd left it, and I drove for hours without stopping. When I got home, I locked the door behind me, closed the blinds, and told myself it was over. Just a nightmare. Just exhaustion and a bad choice in accommodations. But then, something strange happened. That night, as I unpacked my suitcase, I found something I hadn't put there. A towel, embroidered, faded red thread. It said, MH Room 304. My heart dropped. I threw it away, burned it. I didn't sleep, and for weeks I avoided mirrors. But they didn't avoid me. Every now and then, in the reflection of a window, or the screen of my phone, I'd see her. Just for a second, Marina, watching, waiting. Then, a month later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single brass key. Room 304, and a note. You were never the only guest.